I think one of the benefits of being in a mastermind group is kind of having an accountability partner.
I love bookkeeping.
Hi, everyone, and thank you for listening to the I Love Bookkeeping podcast. My name is Hannah Robinson.
And I'm Melissa Honan.
And thank you so much for tuning in. Today, we're going to be talking about something that is very popular here among the community at bookkeepers.com, and that is mastermind groups. I don't know if you guys know this. I am also the community manager here at bookkeepers.com, meaning that I oversee all of our online communities. And it's kind of a smaller online mastermind group, or I guess a larger mastermind group online in itself. Our communities are, which is so amazing to watch. But I've also gotten to see our mastermind groups in person here at bookkeepers.com. And that is actually the first time I met Melissa.
Yes.
OPP. OPP, the OGs.
Yes.
If you know, you know. Melissa, those mastermind groups, I know that every time you go there, people ask you 1,010 questions because you just have a fountain of knowledge to share.
Do you know what's so funny is I feel like I don't get a lot of people that talk to me. It's probably a combination of like resting bitch face and just, I guess maybe we're all introverts or anxiety, but I've been told recently that I'm very intimidating. And so I actually don't get a lot of people that reach out to me. Now in our kind of mastermind group, which is, for those of you that don't know, there was kind of like an original mastermind group kind of within the BBL community that was called Bookkeeper Elite. And so it was a group of, I don't even know how many of us, I feel like maybe like the regulars were probably 20 to 30. They know me so well now. And so, it's really me asking a lot of questions to them, sharing. A lot of times we're not even talking about business directly. But I would say that if you do see me in person, I'm not as scary as I appear. Please come talk to me.
She's not as scary as she appears, people.
Yes.
So when I knew we were going to talk about this, I immediately, of course, my mind goes straight to our mastermind group, the BKE group, Bookkeeper Elite, which what Melissa was just talking about. But that's kind of the only one that I had witnessed in person. I'm not a part of a mastermind group. I am a part of, I guess, online Facebook groups. So I kind of did some research on the benefits of mastermind groups to see if they matched up with what I would think the benefits would be that I have witnessed. And I think one of the biggest takeaways that I have learned from watching our Bookkeeper Elite students is that they have built these super solid relationships with like-minded people. Melissa, is that something that you think is probably like the biggest takeaway you've seen?
Yes. And it's so funny because actually, for everyone listening, they're going to be like, man, how do I get into Bookkeeper Elite? Sorry, guys. It actually doesn't exist anymore. And I think they're doing one last event, but I'm not able to attend. It's going to be in a couple of weeks, and that's going to be the final Bookkeeper Elite event. But you can't kill Bookkeeper Elite. And so what happened was some people inside the mastermind group have continued on with, events outside of it's the unofficial BKE. And that's the thing is when you get that strong of a group, we don't need, Ben to, get us together anymore. We're just you can't stop us from getting together. We're just going to do it. So I think that is a huge part of it, right? Is just having that group of people where you're you can't stop me. I don't need you for this. We're going to hang out regardless. Yes.
Yeah. I feel like not only have friendships been built, but it's just great to see that a group of people with like-minded ideas are able to be so different, but also at the same time have so much in common and have kind of a common goal that they're working towards and be able to work together in collaboration to ultimately better themselves and better their business.
I think that's a big part of it too, because honestly, when I think deeper into like a lot of people in the mastermind group, there's probably a lot of people that I wouldn't be friends with if this hadn't brought us together, right? Like we probably don't agree on, all of the like religion or politics, or, we're, completely living different lives. You're like, a single guy with no kids. Like we're probably not going to be friends. I'm like married, got a bunch of kids, but I think that again, having this thing that brought us together, which always ends up getting us like all teary eyed when we start talking about like bookkeepers.com, but it's serious. Like it's been a great community. And I think that it's probably one of the best places to find a mastermind group for that same reason, because I don't know that there would have ever been another place where this group of 20 to 30 people that were completely different, come from completely different walks of life, could be brought together in an environment that allowed us to be open and honest and accepting of different beliefs and non-judgmental and friendly and all of the things, right? Like if you think of any other online community, for sure, like there's nothing like this, right? And I think that's the thing, is that we just accept everybody how they are and try to help them with their business, regardless on if we maybe agree with it.
Yeah. And I think that's one of the biggest benefits that people can really get from joining a mastermind group, is that when a bunch of people get together that maybe have different ideas and different mindsets, different backgrounds, different goals, it's kind of great, because one of the biggest benefits is that you can see from somebody else's perspective, and you can learn from what they're going through, and you can learn different ideas and different techniques to do things. And I think it requires a level of openness, but also like the collaboration of being in a mastermind group is just, to me, that's just kind of irreplaceable, because you can learn so much from people if you are willing to learn. I think that's a huge part of joining a mastermind group, is that you really have to be open and have this willingness to accept a different idea than something that maybe you were brought up on.
For sure. But I will definitely say, in my experience, is that they probably still won't listen to my advice. And they'll still do what they want to do a lot of the times, which is so funny, I think, in our experience, because I think that's the difference between, right, we were just talking about mentors, where it's somebody that's kind of, and like further ahead of you in a career, right? Or further ahead, they've been there, done that. But in a mastermind, a lot of times you guys are on the same level. You're in the same place in business, and you're kind of helping each other. You're parallel. And, my ideas are always better, right? Why, if my idea wasn't the best, why wouldn't I be doing it? Right. That is not at all what I think, but for some people that it is how they think. And, I think you can still be open, but then at the end of the day, you're really just going to still do what you want to do. And I think what's great is that knowing that, I think for me, knowing that people are still just going to do what they want to do is great to see. And I'm still going to support them through that, because there is like a basis of friendship too. And so it's like, I can give you my feedback and I can give you my advice and, tell you like, yeah, I'd recommend if you do this or that. But at the end of the day, it's still their business. They're going to do what they want to do. But I think it is important that they hear other perspectives and then still come to that decision that they're going to just do it their way anyway. I'm calling out Ben Day right now. I'm calling out Ben Day.
We've got to call out.
Got to call out. He needs to come on our podcast. And he will be, everybody. But it's just, I was thinking specifically about him because I gave him advice and he was like, he literally typed back in the text message, I'm still going to do what I want to do though.
I'm going to do what I want.
I'm still going to do what I want. And I think that's great because it's like, yeah, and I'm going to support you when that happens.
Yeah. Well, I think there's that kind of great level of support, but also I think one of the benefits of being in a mastermind group is kind of having an accountability partner. Do you find that there is a good level of kind of accountability and I think of Bookkeeper Elite, because you guys are on a similar path and a similar level of where you're at, do you find that you feel maybe held more accountable if you share your ideas with the like-minded group?
I have seen that happen. And so, like, for instance, we have a Bookkeeper Elite Slack that we created. And I know a lot of people are so active in that. And I know that there have been like mini masterminds within the Bookkeeper Elite with just a few people that meet regularly that hold each other accountable. I will say that I'm the worst. I'm like literally the worst at mastermind groups. I especially with staying consistent in Bookkeeper Elite as well. It was something that, for me, we stopped doing in-person events due to COVID. And for me, it's like I needed that in-person event because like it's hard for me to be virtual sometimes when it comes to building relationships. It's just like out of sight, out of mind in a sense. And so, I've got 5 different Slack, communities that I'm going back and forth for different business related things. It's just one thing. So I'll be honest, I don't have that there. But I know that a lot of people do. I do have that accountability with other people in business, but more on a one-on-one than I do in like an actual mastermind with like multiple people. So, but I do think, yes, like that's a great way to get accountability for sure by people that care about you, but they also care about your business and they want to keep you on track.
Today's show is brought to you by Keeper, the one app to run your bookkeeping business. Keeper helps you get faster client responses with your own custom branded QuickBooks integrated client portal. Finally, you can say goodbye to those pesky spreadsheets full of uncategorized transactions. Keeper also helps you catch those embarrassing coding errors before your clients do. And with Keeper, you can generate beautiful custom reports that your clients will absolutely love to read. To find out more, go to keeper.app. That's keeper.app. Mention I Love Bookkeeping to get 20% off your first 3 months. Again, go to keeper.app to find out more. Thank you for listening.
When you said, we stopped a lot of our events because of COVID, I think what came into play during events like that are so funky and, we're not meeting up with people face to face is Facebook groups. And Facebook groups are a double-edged sword because there is a Facebook group for everything. And I say they're a double-edged sword because they are kind of an online mastermind group. And I'm sure you can find, I'm not in a lot of Facebook groups outside of, we're not on Facebook anymore, outside of ours. I have found that our community is generally the most positive one I've ever seen. I rarely ever deal with any snark from anybody. With that being said, there's so many great online communities for people to join. I feel like there's a Facebook group for everything. And being able to join those online mastermind groups are really great because you can, if you're more of an introvert and you're maybe not ready to put yourself out there for an in-person event, you can find people online and you can kind of find like your online mastermind group on certain communities like Facebook, or I don't know if there's groups anywhere else. I'm sure there are, like on Reddit and stuff, but we have our communities on Circle, and I know that especially during COVID, a lot of people just said that the online communities were just their saving grace because they weren't able to see people in person or attend networking events or learn. And so when you're able to learn from people online, I think it can be really beneficial. But again, it's such a double-edged sword I
agree with you. And I think that, since we're specifically talking about like building relationships with mastermind groups, it's funny that you bring up Facebook because, in those Facebook groups, the more that you interact, the better you're going to show up in the algorithm, right? Like the more, views you're going to get, the more that you interact, the more you become a community member. And I think that's true whether you're going to be on an online mastermind group, if you're going to be in a Slack mastermind group, if you're going to be in person, whatever it would be, just make sure that you are always giving in when you're also giving back as well. Because, nobody wants to be in a mastermind group that's one-sided, where it's just like, you're always asking and asking and asking and never seeing what you can do for the other people. It does need, definitely you need to be active and helping and answering and sharing, that space so that everybody, gets a benefit from being in that group.
Right. Well, I think it can be hard online because you don't have that face-to-face connection and people can't hear your tone of voice. But yeah, it's funny because me being the community manager and seeing our different communities, I always brag, we have such great communities. But I just hear from actually speaking of mastermind groups, I was in a Facebook group for community managers on Facebook. That was like the biggest circle I just talked in because I'm in a Facebook group for community managers on Facebook. But I think from things that I've seen, a lot of people talk about dealing with conflict in their groups online and dealing with different things that have to do with conflict and people arguing and things like that. And I just sat there and I was like, oh, well, I never really have to deal with things like
not
that.
My problem.
Not my issue, not my students. But yeah, I think with things kind of changing out of COVID times, and that's, I hate talking about that because it gets hairy, it gets political, whatever. But with things kind of starting to phase out of that, I really encourage those of you who are listening to actively look for a mastermind group. I think the best way to do that is to seek out those who are in your field and I always tell people when it comes to marketing and networking, go where your clients go. This time it's not go where your clients go, it's go where your people go.
For sure. And I think a big part of that too is you might see that there are masterminds that are already created. And sometimes, people, drop out of a mastermind group for whatever reason, check to see if there's a wait list or if they're going to be accepting new people into a mastermind group. And also try a few, because I think it is really important that it's a group of people that you can feel comfortable with and talk to openly. And if you feel kind of awkward in that group and it doesn't seem like it's the right fit, that doesn't mean that all masterminds aren't going to work. It just might not be the mastermind for you. So definitely shop around to see what do you need? What are you looking to get? And what are the type of people that you want to be with? And try to find them and find a few to give it a try and see what really works for you.
Yeah. Date around is what we're saying.
For sure.
Date around with your mastermind group.
In that sense too, there are some paid mastermind groups. And I think that could be a good fit for some people because I think, a paid mastermind group versus an unpaid, there might be more of, a level of seriousness in the people that are willing to put money down for that mastermind group. And I think that it's also a good way for you to commit to them as well. So it's kind of like, we're putting this money down so that we know that we're all serious and professional. This is what this is on. And in that case, there may be typically a moderator of the mastermind group, which is going to lend to, I think, a little bit more formality or organization of the mastermind group rather than, there's just like 3, 4, 5 of us. There's no real, central leader. It's a little bit more chaotic. I think some of those paid mastermind groups can definitely be worth the money.
Yeah. Well, and I feel like those can come with, even though they're a little bit more of an investment, I feel like sometimes those can come with more benefits and perks, which are always, who doesn't love that?
Yeah. I have seen a lot of times when they are, paid mastermind groups, it's usually stemmed to some kind of product or service that the leader offers. But that doesn't mean you shouldn't discount it, that it's just like, oh, they're just going to try to sell me. A lot of times they really, still just want to give back and provide content. But of course, we always talk about value. Leading a mastermind group is time consuming, and, you definitely want to pay people for their worth and for their value and, their experience. And maybe that's not what you do forever. Maybe you do end up leaving that paid mastermind group and creating your own, whatever it might be. But I wouldn't judge anybody that is trying to charge for facilitating a mastermind group, because it is definitely work.
Yeah, it is. I've witnessed how much work it is. That's a lot of work.
It is. Yeah.
What is something, just to kind of finish up this topic, what is something that you feel like you've really benefited from being in a mastermind group?
So again, I suck at mastermind groups, but I will say, it did make me, kind of come out of my shell and be more active in the community, because I felt validated and welcome being a part of the Bookkeeper Elite community. It definitely made me feel like, oh, okay, I belong here. And if I belong here, then I probably belong in this community in general. And so I, was not active in the bookkeepers.com community for many years, because I didn't know, am I supposed to be here? Because, I'm not a bookkeeper. I am, but I'm not, right? I'm like and I always tell people I'm a terrible bookkeeper. Am I supposed to be here? Like when you're asking questions about like, how do I do this payroll, journal entry? Like, I'm not going to be your girl, guys. Like I will ask the smart people that I hire to do that, and get back to you. But I never felt like, oh, maybe I'm not supposed to be here because of that. But I think being a part of that group definitely made me feel welcome and realize that I do have a lot to give back, because I do, at the end of the day, I love bookkeeping. I love bookkeepers, and I do run a, what some would consider a successful bookkeeping firm. So I think that validation and acceptance was really great for me personally.
Well, and I think, I won't speak for you, but I think the sense of community that people get from a really great mastermind group is something that is so rewarding. If you guys have questions about mastermind groups, comments, concerns, tips, you just want to talk to us about mastermind groups or in general, shoot us an email at success@ilovebookkeeping.com. Again, that is success@ilovebookkeeping.com. My name is Hannah Robinson.
And I'm Melissa Honan.
And thank you for tuning in to the I Love Bookkeeping podcast.
I love bookkeeping. Here's a little shout to all my friends working hard at keeping the books. You want to change your life, you want to grow